This is the Sunday stream opening song because the other song is copyrighted. La 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 la. Oh look, here comes Dog Cat Fox.
Hi, Sky.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday stream, the stream I do on Sundays, because Sunday is the day to stream on Sundays. Hope you're all doing well on this beautiful Sunday morning. Yes, it is a beautiful, thankfully cool Sunday morning as compared to Sundays of the past. It's fairly comfortable here. I hope it's comfortable where you are. And if it's not, I hope you can find comfort in the fact that I'm comfortable. Sure, why not? Let's all share in the joys of comfort. If you can believe it, I don't know what I'm doing on a Sunday morning usually because my brain's still waking up, and I had so many little bits and bobs and things to get ready for this particular show because there's so many extra little things going on. You will see shortly. It won't mean much in the long run because it'll just seem like magic, but I had to arrange a whole bunch of things. I know. Could I be more cryptic? Probably not, even if I were cryptic. Hi, cryptic, wherever you are. Either way, good morning, everyone. Who's joining me on this beautiful Sunday morning to find out what's going on in the world? Mike R., good morning. Noah Sencio, good morning to you. Funtime Bats, good morning. Old Guy Gamer, good morning. And please rest up and take care of yourself. Do not hurt yourself any further. Whacking your head on a backhoe. Just don't do that no more. Corey Suzuki, good morning. Derek LaRue, thank you, Derek, as always, for your continued support and generosity. I have no words otherwise to say other than thank you so much. Hope you're having a good Sunday so far and hope you enjoy the show. Kiro Soldier, good morning. Who else is here? Shadowclaw, good morning. Josh Hammond, good morning. Seen you on a couple other streams, Josh. Hope you're doing well today. The Best Remy, good morning. Mike Savage, Blarg. Robert Pincus, good morning. The Blakester, good morning. Fostonia, good morning to you. It is not comfortable here. You have my sympathies. I know what not being comfortable is like. Especially now. I don't know if I mentioned on this stream or otherwise, but I have graduated, as it were, from Invisalign to braces. Yes, at the age of 45, I now have braces across the top of my teeth. Because as much work as Invisalign did to get things squared away, there are some finer details that it just couldn't handle. And so for the next month or two, I have to have braces. I feel like a kid again, in constant pain and feeling slightly awkward. Isn't that great? Boy, I'm having such great flashbacks to junior high and high school. Anyway, Keeverdam, thank you so much, Keeverdam, for the happy, lovely Dog Cat Fox. Oh, Dog Cat Fox.
Wowie, wow, wow.
No, there's a Keeverdam Dog Cat Fox. Not coincidental. Thank you, Keeverdam. Appreciate it. Hope you're having a good morning and enjoy the show. Urkale Di Stefano, good morning. John Trioxin, good morning to you. Who else is here? Anybody else? Oh, Advocatus Diaboli, good morning to you. And I think that's everybody. If I missed you, if you're lurking, or if you're in the future, good morning. All right, so I've got a small handful of interesting stories that popped up in my feed this week, and I thought I would elucidate them for myself and for you. I haven't read most of these articles, or at least not to an extent that I could be quoted on them. So I'll get to them momentarily. Oh, Green Badger Outdoors, good morning. And Corey Suzuki, thank you so much. Not to be a downer with the news, but there was a terrorist stabbing in my hometown of Solingen, Germany. Yes, I was keeping up on that as it was happening, at least at the time, shortly after it was reported. I don't know what to say. They apparently caught someone or someones. First report I heard was a 15-year-old that was involved in it, and then a 26-year-old. I don't know if they've gotten any more clarification today versus what I saw last night, but what can I say? For what it's worth, and I know in the grand scheme of things, maybe not much, but condolences to the family and families of the victims. And can't say for sure, or at least I can't. I don't know if the press has said otherwise, what the motivation was, but if it was terrorism or some other kind of cultural thing, given the numbers of what's going on in Europe and elsewise, I don't imagine these are going to go away anytime soon. So let's hope that whatever they do in Germany, and as far as I know, these things are relatively rare in Germany. Fingers crossed, knock Formica. But yeah, condolences to you, Corey, for your connection there, and to everybody harmed. And I hope it gets squared away. We'll have. I'm saving my own choice of downer story for later in the show. I don't mean to like have one story a week where some crime thing happens that ticks me off, but it just seems to be the case every week. We'll get there eventually. Kashol, good morning to you, and Ryan R. If I didn't already say good morning to you. But some happy news, productive news to start off with, and a connection to one of my older videos. We'll get there momentarily. But here you go. This is from the Washington Post on August 19th. The movement to diversify Silicon Valley is crumbling amid attacks on DEI. And oh, have tears been shed? Groups like Girls in Tech and Women Who Code promised to attract women and people of color to the tech industry. Now they're closing up shop or rebranding their efforts to stay afloat. Oh no. Girls in Tech, a nonprofit dedicated to recruiting women into the tech industry, was a Silicon Valley darling, with major companies eagerly partnering with the group after its 2007 launch. But in a single week, in late 2023, 5 key donors pulled their funding, citing market turbulence. To stay afloat, the group's founder, Adriana Gascione, I'm probably butchering that name, I apologize, considered merging with Women Who Code. Okay, so Girls in Tech were going to merge with Women Who Code. All right. A nonprofit with a similar mission backed by corporate giants, including Microsoft, Google, and Boeing. Days after she floated the idea to members of her board, Women Who Code shuddered. Hey guys, everybody's like not funding us anymore. Maybe we should like merge with these other guys. Oh, now they're gone too. With money drying up, Gascione dissolved her own 130,000 member group in July. 130,000 members. But couldn't stay afloat. Okay. Girls in Tech was part of a network of nonprofits and consultants that blossomed in the early 2010s to promote race and gender representation in Silicon Valley. Right. Not talent or passion or knowledge, mind you, but race and gender. Do we see maybe where the problems lie here? The network has struggled amid a growing political backlash against diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI programs. Oh, yes, it's everybody else's fault. It's not the inherent, construction of our movement. No. It's everyone else's fault. It's the haters. The haters did this, everyone. The drop in support for programs that tech companies once touted as a sign of their commitment to adding women, Black people, and Hispanic people to their ranks follows a right-wing campaign to challenge diversity initiatives in court. Or people are avoiding having to take responsibility for the fact that their programs were failures from the get-go and had nowhere to go, and so instead blame the right wing. Yes. Well, I guess the right wing is just that powerful, huh? All right. After the Supreme Court struck down race-based admissions at Harvard and other schools, yes, advocates have levied similar legal challenges against corporations. Well, as they should. Some prominent tech leaders have recast DEI as a discriminatory movement, turning programs into political liability for donors. Well, not just a political liability, but a financial liability and a legal liability, because that's what they are. Some prominent tech leaders have recast DEI as a discriminatory movement. Some, you're probably going to talk about Elon. I haven't read this yet. We're going to talk about Elon Musk, probably. Just calling it is what it is. DEI is a discriminatory movement. You just said in the previous paragraph, commitment to adding women, Black people, and Hispanic people to their ranks. That's your own stated goals of this movement. All right. And now, if you want to take a look at Title VII, and just to have an idea of what the spirit of the law says when it comes to making decisions about hiring people on the basis of certain elements, you might get an idea why people think and why DEI is a discriminatory movement. But I digress, though not much. DEI must die, Elon Musk posted on X in December. The popular All In podcast, hosted by 4 tech investors, called DEI, quote, dying, quote, the best political trend of 2023. I agree. The sudden collapse of a program with the wholesome seeming goal of encouraging girls and women to pursue careers in technology, where the workforce is dominated by white and Asian men, floored Gascioni. How dare they deny my discriminatory program when I'm trying to outbid other people on the basis of their elements that would be inherently discriminatory were I to use them in hiring? And anyway, quote, I was just in shock when we had to pull that ripcord, Gascione told the Washington Post. Bolstered by support from top tech executives and the Obama administration, the organizations promised to transform the industry by finding, training, and supporting promising talent. No, you're not concerned with talent. You're filtering on the basis of aesthetics. Talent is, at best, a secondary consideration, likely a tertiary consideration next to gender and race, as you've already stated in your own article. But anyway, transform the industry by finding, training, and supporting promising talent to diversify a largely homogeneous workforce. Right, because every white and Asian male is exactly the same on an aesthetic level, I guess. Despite these initiatives, the tech industry's demographics remain largely stagnant. Man, it's almost like there's just sort of a natural flow of interest and ability when it comes to the genders or something. In 2022, 26% of science, tech, engineering, and math workers were women, an increase of 1 percentage point from the year 2000, according to the U.S. Department of Labor. So within the margin of error for statistical analysis. Okay. While the share of black workers in Google's U.S. offices increased by 2.4 percentage points between 2019 and 2024, they make up less than 6% of the company. Well, why is Google so racist? That's the only conclusion I can come to, right? That's the conclusion I'm supposed to come to when analyzing workforces on the basis of racial demographic split, correct? Wow, Google's a really racist company, isn't it? And I say that only because that's the exact same calculus we've been offered over and over and over again about every other industry or every other company that doesn't have the quote-unquote correct split of women and or racial demographics. And that's why DEI consultants are needed. I wonder how much money at this point Google's spent on their DEI initiatives to reach a goal here of 6%. I mean, 6% doesn't even reflect the national demographic split, right? I mean, it may actually reflect the adult split, right? Because it's approximately 13 to 15% of the United States population is black. So if you take that full population and say, well, let's just say half is below the age of 18 and the other half is above, just for the sake of argument, maybe 6% is reflective of, the population, or the working population. So maybe Google's hit the ceiling. I don't know. Some experts attribute the unwavering numbers to failures in company DEI programs, which critics contend fail to fully incorporate the needs of staff. Well, what else does the staff need? Diversity consultants say they are being offered fewer contracts as tech companies lay off the DEI teams that champion their work. Oh no! Oh no! The diversity consultants are losing work because it's becoming fairly obvious that nothing that they do actually increases the bottom line. It's just a drain. Doesn't actually help out with innovation or the efficiency or quality of teams. Some nonprofits have been told that corporate leaders no longer support their efforts, while others say the change is part of a strategy shift. Yes, a very quiet, gentle, behind-the-scenes strategy shift. Here we go. Now, here's where we get into a little bit of crossover with a long ago previous video I did. Reshma Saujani, founder and former CEO of Girls Who Code, which has helped 670,000 students, 670,000 female students, I'm assuming, said programs like hers have helped marginalized groups break into the tech industry. Really? Then why are they all falling apart? And what was the point? Quote, this wasn't a partisan issue. This was an opportunity issue, Saujani said. Quote, they have made it into a woke left thing rather than something that is good for the American economy. Well, let me just plug, as I would otherwise, that yes, years ago, I did a video featuring Miss Saujani in a video I called 3 Problems and a Funeral, where Miss Saujani gave the keynote speaker address at the Graduate School of Education for Harvard. And boy, howdy, the difference between her portrayal of herself and the facts behind the scenes, as I elucidated within the video, there wasn't nothing partisan about it. It wasn't about woke thinking or, gender supremacy or racial issues. No. It was all above board, everybody. And a link to that video, if you're curious about it, is in the description below. I would suggest you watch. I think it's one of my better videos, my better sort of investigatory videos of the olden days. And it has some very interesting facts about Miss Saujani's career that she, she probably just forgot to mention over the course of her speech. But anyway, that's a whole aside. Efforts to diversify Silicon Valley have faced waves of backlash. Yeah, mostly accounting reports and profit margins. But anyway, under public pressure, tech companies like Google and Facebook began issuing annual quote-unquote transparency reports in the mid-2010s, revealing that leading firms often had only 1 or 2% Black or Latinx employees. Yeah, have they continued with that trend in reporting recently? Despite that stark divide, internal efforts to raise awareness around the numbers became a flashpoint inside tech companies. Some workers argued that the tech companies' demographics were based on merit and reflected hiring the best person for the job. As we would hope, but others, particularly employees of color, said corporate training around mitigating bias avoided topics like discrimination and inequality, framing bias as an interpersonal issue. Right, so you accuse the company of being racist or sexist or whatever, and in response, to make sure they're not called bad names, they institute these DEI programs to show everybody, hey, look, guys, we're totally not racist. We've got a whole program that's letting all types of people in on the basis of what they look like. You see? Carla Monteroso, the former CEO of Code 2040, we've got a lot of former CEOs here, which offers Black and Latinx students fellowships at tech companies. And by the way, this is totally not racist, guys. This is totally not discriminatory. Anyway, marveled at how normal it was at the time for executives and employees to debate whether promoting diversity was, quote, lowering the bar for talent. Well, I don't know. If you make the lowest common denominator the thing you're choosing people on the basis of, do you think that could be the result? Person who ran a nonprofit that only focused on people on the basis of their race or ethnicity? I don't know. Quote, we were really in the gunk of trying to prove people of color had worth, she said. How about trying to prove that people with talent had worth? Are you even listening to yourself? Some donors who cut funding after Trump's 2016 election privately expressed concern about unionizing and worker organizing, said Monteroso. Okay. Folks did not want a radicalized activist workforce, so they were pulling money left and right, she said. Yeah, well, how has that worked out for the bottom line of companies? You see, here's the thing. If it was just political pressure, companies wouldn't care if the bottom line was rising, right? If companies were making money hand over fist and they could draw a line directly between their DEI initiatives and their profits, who cares if the right wing is going to complain? No, Google, Microsoft, all these other companies are cutting these programs because they are demonstrably A, not beneficial to the company on a profit level, and B, especially after the Supreme Court ruling on affirmative action, a legal liability, as they always were. It just took a Supreme Court decision on a quasi-separate case to prove that to people, which is just bizarre to me. Still so bizarre. Thank you, Mike R. Google spent $50 million on DEI. Money well spent, if you ask me. Well, hell, that's for Google, that's probably just a rounding error. 50 million. Good gravy. I mean, heck, you could buy you could buy like 2.5 episodes of The Acolyte for that. $50 million. Like I say, that's a lot of money, but in contrast to Google as a company, that seems awfully small. It almost seems like a token amount of money spent. Thank you, Mike R. Appreciate it. Let's see. Where were we? Right. For girls in tech, financial troubles mounted when the pandemic hit in 2020, said Gasquion. The nonprofit needed more resources to pay for new technology as it shifted in-person hackathons and startup competitions to virtual events. Corporate donors, citing an erratic market, were reluctant to give. Okay, well, that sounds more economic than it does sound like haters or something. As Silicon Valley grappled with the absence of black workers and investors after George Floyd's murder. Wait, what? So wait, George Floyd's death caused black workers and investors to vanish? Okay, this statement needs some clarification. What? Wait, so George Floyd dies and black workers and investors just disappeared? I'm confused. Some tech companies redirected donations towards nonprofits supporting black communities and people of color rather than organizations like Girls in Tech, Gasquion said. Oh, so they directed their money to a different blatantly discriminatory end rather than your blatant discriminatory end. Oh no. How shall we distribute our discriminatory money? It's almost like we just kind of go wherever the political and social winds are blowing to make ourselves look the most, virtuous or something. I don't know how that works. Some tech executives became distrustful let me try that again. Some tech executives became distrustful of diversity initiatives, she added, noting lagging progress on hiring and promoting underrepresented groups. Yeah, because there's a little thing called the law that kind of disincentivizes hiring people on the basis of their demographic, isn't there? Quote, the pendulum swung so far and people were not really being strategic, said Gasquion. I think not breaking the law blatantly after you've been called out on it is relatively strategic. Maybe that's just me. The dynamics have changed the landscape for organizations that once flourished. Yes, the tide has gone out and people are seeing who's actually wearing a bathing suit. Debbie Forster, co-CEO of the Tech Talent Charter, a UK-based industry coalition promoting diversity, dissolved the group this summer when the tech company's commitments waned. Forster had enough funds to keep operating, but said she would rather close up shop and let companies promote their commitment to the charter's mission while they quietly slash DEI programs. What are you going to do with the extra money you're not spending? Quote, we didn't want to be part of any kind of performative fig leaf activity, Forster said. Really? What you're doing isn't performative. Well, it didn't result in any benefit that kept you open, did it? So, kind of a pantomime, don't you think? Quote, we had to show the sector what was going on. So wait. So you shut your doors not because your entire organization was effectively a failure. You shut your doors as an act of protest? Or to send a warning signal to the sector? Well, that's how very courageous of you. Okay, falling on your own sword to make a point, not closing up shop because the entire structure around DEI is very thankfully quickly crumbling. No. It's really, we did this for the betterment of all. Anyway, Wonder Women tech founder, I've never even heard, Wonder Women tech founder Lisa Mae Brunson knew her nonprofit, which helps women break into tech, was vulnerable to corporate whims. but she was surprised by how quickly the wind shifted after losing roughly 75% of her corporate clients in the past year. Why are you guys surprised? Why are you guys surprised? Look, I can't count how many times I've had to say this. The Supreme Court decision on affirmative action set the precedent that using the argument for diversity to justify a program that is blatantly, in the case of the Supreme Court case, racially discriminatory, sets the precedent for hiring on the basis of any other element that sits on level legal footing with race under Title VII. Look up Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Read off all the elements of an individual, including race, that appear in the same sentence. Okay? That is where people are at now. That is the legal risk that any company or organization is facing if they happen to fund or take part in a program that bases hiring decisions or promotional decisions on the basis of race or anything else in that sentence. Because the argument for diversity is not a defense against implementing programs that use those elements to discriminate. That is the calculus. So I don't understand why you guys are so surprised. It was never legal to begin with. It was always shaky. But the Supreme Court just affirmed you can't just say diversity and get away with it. So, I don't know. Consult with a lawyer or something. One client canceled a panel and networking mixer for women and people of color at the last minute, despite having already paid. Sponsors who previously had a booth at Brunson's annual Wonder Women Tech Conference opted not to participate this year, she said. I guess they're all just caving to right-wing pressure, aren't they? CARS Group President, K-A-R-S, I don't know what that means. Oh, maybe it's just Keisha A. Rivers, C-A-R or K-A-R. Okay. Whose firm helps companies design and implement programs to support people of color, cut roughly 30% of its workforce after companies eliminated or paused their programs. I can't imagine why. It's such a mystery, isn't it? Clients would say, quote, "It's not anything to do with you. It's just that at this point in time, we just felt like it was better to pause this and not to move forward," unquote, Rivers said. Quote, and I'm like, well, we've been talking for months and they seem fine. So what changed, unquote. Golly, I don't know, Miss Rivers. I don't know. It's a mystery. It's an absolute, I mean, where's Robert Stack? Robert Stack needs to walk in off the center left of the screen under a cloud of smoke under a street light and introduce us to this unsolved mystery. It would be nice. Oh, Robert Stack. You were Elliot Ness once. Last year, Rivers pivoted, offering training for leaders to create, quote, psychologically safe environments for a diverse workforce. Yes, because as we know, diverse people are inherently psychologically fragile, I guess. Industry experts are discussing how to make diversity initiatives less polarizing, including using language around culture, identity, and belonging, or leadership development rather than equity. Yeah, why don't you just offer leadership training to anyone who wants it and not have filters based on culture, identity, and belonging? It's very simple. It's so amazing to me that everybody's like, well, I don't understand why this isn't working. Why is everybody pulling out their funding all of a sudden? Maybe we should, not do what we've been doing that's been not profitable and has so much controversy. Why does it have so much controversy? I don't understand. What's with the controversy? I'm just trying to help very specific people on the lowest common denominator of their makeup. I don't know. Brunson is changing the name of her annual conference from Wonder Women Tech Conference to Wonder Tech Fest, a move that has already attracted more male signups for the event next year, she said. Yeah. Oh my God. If you take away the gatekeeping of someone's value on the basis of an element that says nothing about their personal merit, it's amazing who might be interested in joining. Isn't it? She finds the need to rebrand frustrating. Oh, I can't be sexist anymore. Dang it. Quote, Are we trying to sugarcoat it for companies to get on board? She asked. Today it's a political issue, but tomorrow it may not be. No, I'll tell you what. Discriminating job opportunities on the basis of sex will always be a political issue. You know why that is? Because it is against federal law. I don't know if you've heard of this thing called the Civil Rights Movement of the 60s and the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and all the pieces of legislation that derived from there. I don't know if you've heard these things, but yes, it is a political issue when you start saying you're not worthy because of something that says nothing about your merit. So go away, you evil, yucky man. Yeah. Anyway, so boo-hoo, the sexist and or racist initiatives for job attraction are faltering and drying up and going away. Oh no. Oh. It's terrible, isn't it? It's terrible. It's terrible. Let's go over to the chat real quick, see what you guys have to say on this before I move on to the next story. Zed the Snarky. So because anti-bias training focuses on the individual who may or may not have the same biases as the next person, then it's not focusing on bias. No. Anti-bias training isn't about getting rid of bias. It's about implementing bias so that you don't have the wrong biases. And to make sure, because it's just a passive accusation of any company that doesn't have the correct, demographic split, that obviously there are biases that apply to race or gender orientation. So we have to tell you to not have those biases by hiring people on the basis of their race, gender, or their orientation to make everything look good. It's so just mind-boggling. It really is. Look, I'm not saying we should remove warning labels from cleaning products for a year or so. Actually, fuck it, quote me on that. I mean, Darren Root, looking at this, basically Martin Luther King died for nothing. It is incredible. It is incredible how such a simple statement of truth and value as let us, and I am paraphrasing here, but let us not evaluate each other on the basis of our color, but on the content of our character, has been turned into something that is bad and evil and right. It is so bizarre. You know how through the looking glass this is, where you have Republicans, conservatives arguing for actual diversity, legal diversity, arguing against racial discrimination, etc. It is amazing when that has classically been the line that has been used against Republicans, that they're white supremacists and this, that, and the other. It's so weird. It's so weird. And that these virtuous, activists and nonprofits and everything, they're either willfully ignorant of what it is that they are doing, or they know what they're doing and they just don't care. It's one of the two, and either one is not a good look. And it's been going on for years. It's only now, good God, how long I've been covering this stuff in organizations like this. I wonder what happened. I wonder if Lesbians Who Tech is still operating. I'm surprised they weren't in this story. I did like a 3-part thing on Lesbians Who Tech years and years ago. Yeah, you had Girls Who Code and Girls in Tech and Women Who Code. And I can't say I'm sad about it. It's really kind of depressing it took this long, but I guess, better late than never. And we'll just see if it lasts. And Josh Hammond, it's like bringing back segregation and calling it a good thing for giving minorities their voice. Yeah. At a certain point, either we are going to operate as a nation that values people on who they are and not what they are, or we're not, or we're simply going to perpetuate this nonsense. We have to draw a line at some point and say, we're not going to do this anymore. We're going to take people on their own merits. Doesn't matter what they look like. Doesn't matter either you can do the thing or you can't do the thing. Either you have a passion for the thing or you don't. And it's not a slight against your value as a person if you try out for a thing and you fail, right? I mean, if I tried out to be an NBA All-Star, I would fail up against the competition next to me, right? But at least I made the attempt. I tried. There's no shame in that. To say then that it's a shame that we don't have that person who can't actually do the job on our team just so we can call ourselves charitable, take pity on this person, even though it will result in a lowering of standards and quality of output. Either we challenge each other and ourselves to do better and the best that we can in the things that we're good at, or we don't. And we're all just one big hug box. And that doesn't get you anywhere. Really doesn't. Anyway, in that same vein, let's go to another story. The headline of this is why I chose it. I'll be reading the actual source of it momentarily, but I love this headline. I really do. Harley-Davidson bows to bigots, drops DEI initiatives. I'm sure that there's no bigoted language in this article. See if I can zoom in on this a little bit. Okay. Is that better? That is a bit better. Okay. This is from Jalopnik. Go away ad. Okay. Recently, a bunch of right-wing cretins. Remember, what was the title of this again? Harley-Davidson bows to bigots. Bigots, everyone. Recently, a bunch of right-wing cretins decided Harley-Davidson was too woke and began organizing a boycott. Of course, it was only a matter of time before Fox News joined the boycott bandwagon and started riling up the rest of the cult. Bigots. Remember bigots, everybody? To put pressure on the motorcycle manufacturer to get rid of its diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. It would be great to be able to tell you Harley-Davidson told those human shit stains to go kick rocks. But that's not what happened. Instead, Harley announced yesterday that it would bow to the bigots. Oh, cretins. You know, the first time that I ever heard the word cretin, as far as I can tell, is Shredder from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I believe, referred to Bebop and Rocksteady as cretins at one point. And I thought, you cretins. I thought that was a great word. I still think it's a great word. In a statement released on Twitter, Harley said, quote, "We are saddened by the negativity on social media over the last few weeks designed to divide the Harley-Davidson community. As a company, we take this issue very seriously, and it is our responsibility to respond with clarity, action, and facts. Earlier this year, we initiated an internal stakeholder review to better align company activities to the needs of both our business and our community." Okay, well, just for clarity and go away. Okay, I'm going to bring up that letter right now. All right, I don't know how clear this will be on the screen. I'm going to do my best to read it because even for me, the script is tiny. Actually, you know what? I'll open it up in a different window where I can see everything, just to make it clear for myself. All right, let's... there we go. All right, here we go. For over 120 years, Harley-Davidson has brought the joy of motorcycling to riders around the world, no matter who they are, where they come from, or what they believe in. We have a guiding principle: united, we ride. It defines how we run our business, treat our people, and underscores our commitment to welcoming all. And again, the statement from the article, but I'll reread it. We are saddened by the negativity on social media over the last few weeks, designed to divide the Harley-Davidson community. As a company, we take this issue very seriously, and it is our responsibility to respond with clarity, action, and facts. Earlier this year, we initiated an internal stakeholder review to better align company activities to the needs of both our business and community. Based on our review, we are committed to the following. Quote, I should say number one, diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI. We see it as every leader's role to ensure that we have an employee base that reflects our customers and the geographies in which we operate. It is critical to our business that we hire and retain the best talent and that all employees feel welcome. That said, we have not operated a DEI function since April 2024, and we do not have a DEI function today. We do not have hiring quotas, and we no longer have supplier diversity spend goals as of April 2024. So prior to this, April 2024 and back to some point, Harley-Davidson did participate in discriminatory spending and hiring quotas by implication based on DEI principles, or at least I have to suspect that. Now the question is, Can Harley-Davidson run out the clock on the statute of limitations when it comes to EEOC violations? I don't know. I guess we'll see. Number 2, business employee resource groups, or BERGs. I've heard of these. Usually it's just ERGs, but okay, BERGs. To ensure alignment of our BERGs with the business moving forward, we will be providing executive management to each group to exclusively focus on professional development, networking, and mentoring. Okay, so does that mean you still have BERGs centered around race and or gender and or ethnicity, but you're just going to change their focus? I'm curious. Sponsorship and affiliations. We are reviewing all sponsorship and organizations we are affiliated with. Actions stemming from that ongoing review will include: 1, all sponsorship activities will now be centrally approved and managed efforts through the company or the Harley-Davidson Foundation. Well, how were they approved or managed previously? As a consumer brand, we will focus exclusively on growing the sport of motorcycling and retaining our loyal riding community, in addition to the support we already provide to first responders, active military members, and veterans. Hello, veterans. You're always mentioned somewhere in here. And lastly, the Harley-Davidson Foundation is committed to driving positive change in Milwaukee, such as through the recently unveiled Davidson Park at our Juneau Avenue headquarters. I don't know what that means. Driving change in Milwaukee. Change of what? Harley-Davidson will not participate in HRC scoring going forward. I don't know what HRC is. So there you go. Employee training. The company continually evaluates its training opportunities to ensure they are right for our workforce. Training provided will be related to the needs of the business and be absent of socially motivated content. Only legally required training has ever been mandatory at Harley-Davidson. There's a whole extra layer of stories here that are just not being clarified in this letter that I'm very curious about. We believe having both a broad employee and customer base, hey, who are you talking about broads here? Wait a second, is good for business, and that ultimately everybody should experience the joy of riding a Harley-Davidson. We remain committed to listening to all members of our community as we continue on our journey together as the most desirable motorcycle brand in the world. United, we ride. So there you go. That is the statement from Harley-Davidson. Anybody know what HRC means? I don't know what HRC means. I am bewildered. Anyway, let's continue with this totally non-bigoted article. The statement then went on to explain how the company ended its DEI program back in April, had gotten rid of hiring quotas. Well, I mean, it said it didn't use hiring quotas, the implication that it did have hiring quotas. And if it did have hiring quotas, that's patently illegal. So Harley might be up for some problems with that admission, but we'll see in the future, and will abandon supplier diversity goals. Yes, so contracting with suppliers on the basis of the race and or gender of those who run it, right? Yeah. It will also focus employee development groups on professional development, reevaluate sponsorships and affiliations, and no longer participate in scoring from the Human Rights Campaign. Aha, HRC. Thank you, Jalopnik, for clarifying that. The Human Rights Campaign. Additionally, going forward, employee training will be limited to only what is legally necessary. Good. And your rejoinder to this, Jalopnik. You have one? Okay, they quote the statement again. All right. How exactly Harley thinks the idea of a, quote, broad employee and customer base, unquote, meshes with its decision to bend the knee to bigots isn't clear. Jalopnik, I want you to look up the legality of having hiring quotas based on race or gender in the workplace under Title VII and the derived laws thereafter. I want you to look that up. I want you to compare that with what the Supreme Court said with affirmative action. Okay? I want you to think about what message it sends, just in a general sense, and how this complies with federal law and the spirit of the laws passed in 1964 when it comes to deciding who to give your money to as a business, first and foremost, on the race and or gender of the person running said business. I want you to think about this for a moment. Just for a moment, would you? Bend the knee to bigots isn't clear, but one thing sure is, Harley-Davidson executives are a bunch of cowards. Even worse, it doesn't appear to have done anything to placate the Twitter trolls who got this whole thing started in the first place. If you check the replies under the post, they're still mad. It's too late. It's not enough. It's performative. If they really meant it, they'd fire the CEO. You get the idea. Well, it may be too late in the sense of they've just effectively admitted, or at least opened the door to, an investigation of hiring practices under civil rights law. So in that sense, yes, this statement might be too late in that regard, but it's a good start in setting a good example, both in the sense of legality, both in the sense of, social cohesion, and for other companies that might want to try to avoid dire fates legally in the future. So in the end, everyone's unhappy, including probably the execs who thought they could simply give in to the angry mob and make this whole thing go away. It's an embarrassing, cowardly decision, and honestly, maybe the CEO really should be fired. Just not for the reason the creepy weirdos want. Okay, tell me again about the angry mob. Aren't you angry? You're calling them cowards? If they gave in to your complaints, would it just be what? You're just the squeaky wheel? Okay. Bigots. Boo to the Who for Jalopnik. Boo to the Who. Let's see. TC, Immigration and Customs Enforcement Business Employee Resource Groups. Iceberg for short. Pretty cool acronym if you ask me. That's pretty good. I like that. That's a good one. Good job, TC. Do I have like a celebratory something that I can like play for that? I don't know. Let's see. How about I guess that's about as celebratory as I've got. That's a good one, TC. I like that. Let's see. Josh Hammond. All this push for DEI is redundant anyways because it's been established that minorities are already treated equally, especially in the workforce. Well, they keep it's not about treatment. It's about aesthetics. It's about the window dressing. Does your workforce have the correct demographic split visually? If we show you a picture of the executive teams of your company, are there too many white people? Well, then you have a problem, and that's where the DEI consultant comes in. It's not about talent. It's not about results. It's about aesthetics, and we've seen that already in the Washington Post article. What were those girls, women, etc. in tech focused on? Race, gender, ethnicity. It's not about attracting people who have a talent or interest in the subject matter. It's about increasing numbers for demographic split. They admit it. It's right there. So anyway, do I need to go on? I don't know. Malachi D. Wildman. No, not pain to enjoy. Discomfort is what I seek via Invisalign. Okay. So, if you're a masochist, I'll tell you what, if you're a masochist, Invisalign will do you well. But Invisalign was very painful. It was very painful because you are progressively, just like with braces, wrenching your teeth into a different position. And I got to tell you, in those first stages, so for those of you that don't know, this is how it works. You're given a series. So for me, it was between, depending on the set, it was either 14 to 22 different sets of little plastic trays that are little molds of your teeth. And each subsequent set of trays is slightly different than the one before. And so what happens is you put these suckers in and you have to keep them in. If you want this thing to work, you have to keep them in for 22 hours a day minimum. So if you're not absolutely eating, you have to keep these suckers in all day. And every time you eat, you have to pause and brush your teeth and clean everything to make sure you're not putting plastic in there for your teeth to swim in whatever you just ate or drank or whatever. And in addition to that, if they need to, and often they do, they put these little like spiky things, almost like braces brackets, on particular teeth that need movement. And then these Invisalign trays snap into those deals. And then progressively, set by set, over the course of your series of trays, move the teeth and leverage them into a better spot. And you have to wear these things like torture devices. And the first week or two is exceedingly painful. And that goes for each one of these two, or each set of trays. All I can say is that from where I started to where I ended with the trays, the change is absolutely night and day. Okay. Now, I didn't have British bad teeth. I'm not irate Alex or anything. All respect to my friend. But my teeth, I had problems with my teeth when I was a little kid. My two front teeth, my baby teeth, they came out as one tooth, a fused root. And that caused all types of problems for the alignment of my upper front teeth for years and years and years. So anyway, so the difference between where I started and where I ended with Invisalign, as far as the trays were concerned, drastic, absolutely drastic. But there came a point at which the trays were just not catching the smaller teeth in my upper teeth. And so they were actually, no matter how many measurements they took or molds they made of my teeth, the trays would come in from the factory or whatever. And the trays would be assuming that this tooth over here or that tooth over there was actually slightly longer than it actually was. And so they ended up actually sort of leveraging my teeth into the wrong place. Even though they were snug with every other tooth in my mouth, these couple of teeth, they just couldn't do it for some reason. And so for like the last series, I think actually I inadvertently worked backwards in my improvement. And so it came down to the point where I had three options. Either I could just say, well, things, especially up top. I mean, my bottom teeth are great now. Perfect arch, everything's lined up, it's great. It's the upper teeth that still had some problems. And so I could say either, well, I guess I'm just happy with things being mostly good and just leave it at that and hope that the teeth don't drift off into la la land in the future. I could try the trays again, which as past as prologue showed that they probably wouldn't do what I wanted them to do. Or I could do the brute force method and the very exacting method of braces to try to get those final bits and pieces in the right spots. And here we go. So that's where I'm at. So I highly recommend Invisalign. It's not cheap. This is the one thing. And this is the one thing that's good, at least. I had to save up my pennies for this. I wanted to try to invest now so that by the time I'm 80 or something, my teeth aren't gone or like non-functional. So it is an investment for the future. It's not cheap. If you can afford it, I recommend you do it if you've got some major stuff to do. The benefit of it was, at least with the plan that I got, is that I effectively have coverage for adjustments for like 5 years. I'm now 3 years in. And when I went in to say, okay, well, what are my options to get this done? Because I don't really want to stop here, but also I don't trust the trays. And they're like, well, do you want to do braces? I don't want to do braces. But I mean, if that's going to finish it off, let's do it. And then I said, I'm assuming that this is going to fall outside of my plan because as far as I understood, the plan was just the Invisalign. The braces were a completely different appliance, etc. And I was told, nope, this falls within because sometimes you just have to do this. And I was actually floored. I thought I was going to be paying another chunk of money. I was actually glad to find out that I didn't, but I was prepared to take a pretty big hit to try to finish this off. And again, it's all just an investment for the future. Really, take care of your teeth. I know it sounds so after school special, but really, take care of your teeth as much as you're able. It is worth it in the long run. Anyway, sorry for that aside, but I just, it's on my mind because I'm in pain. Braces aren't fun. This is not what I wanted to do at 45. I don't want to spend the next 3 months having to eat around metal brackets glued to my teeth and having the soreness every time I bite down. You know what I had this morning just as a snack? I had a couple of strawberries. That was my breakfast because I couldn't handle anything more tough than that, given the sensitivity. And even that was painful. That was painful. But anyway, that aside. All right. Now that I've gone off into la la land about my teeth, let's talk about something terrible. Let's talk about something decidedly terrible. Something that ticks me off. Really, really ticks me off. And again, it is not my intention to make each week contain a story about a crime that makes me mad. But this one popped up. I think I first saw it on the New York Times or Washington Post. And so I found a local outlet to tell me the details. Man accused of killing Seattle dog walker previously deemed high risk for future crimes. Well, I guess that prediction came to pass, didn't it? Let's hear about this story. The man accused of carjacking and killing an 80-year-old woman in Seattle has previously been committed to the state's mental hospital, where doctors expressed concern about his risk for committing acts of violence. Jamed K. Haynes, 48, is in jail on suspicion of murder and animal cruelty. Investigators said he carjacked and then ran over 80-year-old Ruth Dalton in Seattle's Madison Valley neighborhood on Tuesday. They said he then stabbed her dog to death and dumped its body in a trash can at a park. Haynes was arrested on Wednesday by a SWAT team after leaving a mental health clinic in the Capitol Hill neighborhood. So, the guy who was released and suspected that he would do more harm, he left a mental health clinic where he was arrested after murdering an 80-year-old woman by running her over and then killing her dog. Okay. I don't know if the article will say, gotta ask, why was this guy out on the street in the first place? Haynes' criminal history. Court records show Haynes was first charged with taking a motor vehicle without permission in 1991. Okay. In 1993, he was arrested and convicted in King County Superior Court on a charge of vehicular homicide. Okay. He was sentenced to prison in July 1993 and released in December of 1994. Oh, is that all vehicular homicide gets you? Okay. According to court records, Haynes was convicted on a drug charge in 1995 and sentenced to prison that same year. The Washington Department of Corrections, DOC, said Haynes stayed in prison until September 1998 when he was released into community custody. Okay, so wait a second. Let me just get this straight. July 93 to December of 94 for vehicular homicide. Okay, but a drug charge gets him more time in jail. Okay. It's just, all right. 6 months later, he was readmitted to DOC custody for violating his release supervision. He stayed in custody until May 1999. That same year, Haynes was arrested again for a robbery in Renton. He was sentenced to prison in October 1999 after being convicted of first-degree robbery. In 2003, while incarcerated at the Monroe State Penitentiary, Haynes attacked a corrections officer with a shank during a cell inspection. According to the charges filed in the Snohomish County Superior Court, staff noticed a piece of metal was missing from a ping pong table in the prison gym. 4 inmates were suspected of possibly having the piece of metal, and each of their cells was searched. As the corrections officer entered Haynes' cell, Haynes with a 12-inch shank Wait, what? As the corrections officer entered Haynes' cell, Haynes with a 12-inch shank, according to the charges. I think you mean Haynes stabbed the officer with a 12-inch. There's some words missing here, Como News. The officer fell on his back and used a clipboard to defend himself from Haynes. Charges state Haynes stabbed the officer in the torso and legs during the attack. The officer was able to retreat to a safe area, and Haynes was subdued with a less lethal weapon by a specialized prison team. Okay, so for the attempted murder of a corrections officer, this was back in 2003, how much time did he get? After the attack on the prison guard, Haynes was sent to the Western State Hospital in Pierce County, where he received treatment for mental illness. In 2005, so 2 years after the attack, a forensic psychologist determined Haynes was competent to stand trial. All right. A doctor noted that Haynes had made progress with his treatment and was not showing active symptoms of major mental illness. The report said his behavior was, quote, appropriate while at the hospital, and he had, quote, indications of good social support, unquote. Quote, it is important to mention, however, that Mr. Haynes stated he does not intend to continue taking his medications once he is transported back to jail. Because of the high likelihood of decompensation if he stops them, it is essential that Mr. Haynes continue taking his medications as prescribed at the jail in order for him to maintain his current level of trial competency, unquote, the report stated. The report added that Haynes said the reason he attacked the correctional officer was to protest the medications he was being given involuntarily. The psychologist noted that Haynes was, quote, a moderate risk, unquote, for future serious dangerous behavior. Quote, I also believe that he is currently at high risk for committing future criminal acts, jeopardizing public safety and security due to his past illicit behaviors, lack of insight into his psychiatric condition, state intention to discontinue medications, personality disorder, and possible substance use problem, unquote, the report stated. Why was he out, released from supervision, after being convicted of assaulting the correctional officer? Not to mention the vehicular homicide from years ago. Haynes stayed in prison until he was released in 2017. Okay, so he went from so he committed the crime against the officer in 2003, went to state hospital to 2005, and then was in jail to 2017. Okay. His supervised release, tell me about the quality of that supervision. His supervised release reports noted that he was complying with the requirements and had graduated from the DOC's Cognitive Behavioral Change Program. Okay, well, what's gone wrong in the last 7 years? Quote, Mr. Haynes completed all required assignments and participated well in class activities and discussions, a 2018 DOC report stated. He has been able to verbalize how his thinking has controlled his past behaviors and how by using his new skills, he is able to reduce his risk to reoffend. Well, gosh, I'm glad that we can trust the word of a vehicular homicide, someone convicted of vehicular homicide, drug crimes, and trying to kill a corrections officer. I'm sure everything he said is truthful and accurate because this is a person to put your trust into. Haynes' supervised release ended in July of 2018, according to the DOC. Okay, so you kept him on supervised release for a year after a lifetime of criminal behavior and violent outbursts, let's say. Okay. Court records in King, Snohomish, and Pierce counties do not show he has any new cases filed against him since he was released from prison. Oh, okay. Well, that's great. I'm sure that Ruth Dalton appreciates the fact that he didn't have anything else happen, or he is not caught doing anything else between then and now. I'm sure it's fine. Next steps in murder case. Seattle police allege Tuesday's carjacking was random, and Hayes did not know Ruth Dalton before attacking her in her car. Well, that's comforting. Random violence is so much more assuring than targeted violence. At a press conference Wednesday, Seattle Police Deputy Chief Eric Barton said detectives found Hayes' fingerprints on Dalton's phone, and he had her car keys on him at the time of his arrest. Seattle police booked Haynes into jail Wednesday afternoon. He is scheduled for a first appearance in court on Thursday, though prosecutors said it is expected that a public defender will represent him, and he will not appear in person. The King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office said bail for Haynes may be addressed on Friday. Once Seattle police detectives send their case to the prosecutor's office, it will be reviewed for the filing of potential criminal charges. You know, if I attempted to murder a corrections officer, I have a feeling I'd be in jail for the better part of my life. I just have this feeling. I would think that vehicular homicide, not an accident, but vehicular homicide would probably get me more than a year in jail. But apparently not. I don't know. Something about this entire thing seems a little fishy to me. But okay. Here you go. A innocent old lady who just was a dog walker at 80 gets murdered and run over, and her dog killed by a guy that was at a high risk for future crimes, and he said what they wanted them to, what he thought they wanted to hear. Oh, well, golly. That's great. That's just great. Yeah, so talk about slaps on the wrist. Slaps on the wrist. And now an 80-year-old woman minding her own business, walking dogs, lost her life. That's great. Okay. Yeah. Just out of morbid curiosity, since Chaz Chop of the Summer of Love of 2020 every time the story comes out of Seattle or the surrounding area where it's like, oh my gosh, this amazingly terrible thing happened that involves law enforcement or judicial discretion and so on. Can you believe back in 2018, they let this guy go without any more further supervision, took his word for it that he would be a good boy? Can you imagine back in 2018 with the kind of policies that led up to the summer of love? Yeah, I can believe it. Reaping the rewards of your idiotic folly. And who knows how many other time bombs are out there from policies that were implemented back in the mid 2010s. Anyway. Okay, so there's that. Also, good morning, you ridiculous lunatic. All right, I have one more story. This is one I didn't sort of portray on the thumbnail, but it came across my threshold, and it seemed a little bit appropriate to bring up given certain political events taking place. So let's take a look at this one. This is from CNN, the paper of record. U.S. Border Patrol agent arrested and accused of forcing women to expose themselves in virtual interviews. Yes, let's talk about the quality of our border security and personnel therein. I don't know why I'm bringing that up. It's probably not relevant to anything. Authorities in New York State arrested a U.S. Border Patrol agent this week after accusing him of forcing women to expose themselves on webcam, claiming it was a requirement for admission into the country. What? I mean, I got to tell you, what an industrious individual this is. You got to pay your toll, ladies. The agent, 53-year-old Shane Milan, hard to say, of Jefferson County, allegedly ordered 3 women to expose their bare chests and a fourth to expose her breasts while keeping her bra on. Okay, that was the differential. According to a news release from the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Northern District of New York. Milan was charged with 4 misdemeanor counts of depriving the women of their constitutional rights against unreasonable searches. The incidents allegedly took place in August 2023, a year ago? Okay. According to the charging documents assigned by U.S. Attorney Carla Friedman. It's unclear why the charges were filed now, a year later. It is unclear. I wonder if there's any political considerations for that. It's weird. Milan allegedly told the women the requests were, quote, legitimate searches incident to admission to the United States. Although his, quote, demands to see the victim's breasts were for his own gratification, unquote. No kidding. According to the news release, he was virtually processing the victim's admission into the U.S. So they were on webcam. The charging document says Milan committed the offenses in Jefferson County along the Canadian border and, quote, elsewhere, unquote. What do you mean elsewhere? Where else was he assigned? In a statement to CNN, U.S. Customs and Border Protection said it, quote, does not tolerate misconduct within our ranks, unquote, while not specifically addressing Milan's case. Well, you tolerated it for a year since it happened, apparently. Why did you wait a year to prosecute this guy? Okay. Quote, when we discover any alleged or potential misconduct, we immediately refer it for investigation and cooperate fully with any criminal or administrative investigations, the statement said. Well, then why did it take a year? What? Okay, Milan was arraigned before a U.S. magistrate judge Thursday in Syracuse on 4 counts of deprivation of rights under color of law and released pending trial. Court documents do not indicate that he entered a plea at his initial appearance. A jury trial has been set for October 21st, according to court records. CNN is working to determine if Milan has legal representation. I haven't done a border digest in a while, so that just popped up on my radar, and I thought that was interesting, but I didn't know about the incidents took place in 2023. So did they go unreported until recently, or I'm confused. Thank you, Frank Hubbard IV. He's a POS. I'm just curious, do non-U.S. citizens have constitutional rights? It's the Constitution of the U.S. Yes, non-U.S. citizens, or I should say non-U.S. Persons do have a limited number of rights under the U.S. Constitution when it comes to their treatment and so on. I am not an expert. I cannot list them off. But if you come to this country illegally, or you are not a resident of this country and you're visiting, like let's say you're legitimately here as a visitor from another country, just a tourist or something, you do have limited rights under the Constitution. They are very limited as compared to, actual citizens, but you do possess certain rights. Visitors to this country, even illegal ones, have some rights under the Constitution. Again, I'm not at liberty nor at hand to list them off, but they do exist. So the answer to your question, Frank, is yes. Let's see. They have basic rights, but they don't have certain rights like voting. Well, okay. Depending on where you're at, you're not allowed to vote. You're not allowed to own firearms within the country or purchase them and so on and so forth. But as far as like certain treatments, certain protections legally, you have rights. And in this case, if there were people that are trying to get into the country, I don't know under what capacity. They didn't say, like, were they just trying to get in on a visitor's visa or something? And he was saying, well, first you got to show me your goods. I got to make sure you're not carrying any weapons under there with them. You're not a balloon smuggler or something. I don't know. Anyway, Faustonia, thank you for the happy, dancy, kabuki, dog cat fox. Oh, dog cat.
Wow. Wow.
Oh, there's a Sinatra Says dog cat fox. Thank you so much, Faustonia. Appreciate it. Let's see. Advocast Diaboli, if I can bring this up. StreamYard. Hello. There we go. They have protections against the standard things you just can't do to anyone. Yeah, they have certain basic rights of treatment and everything, as human beings and so on. But anything that's exclusively for citizens, they don't have the right to necessarily. Anyway, that's the show. That's the articles I have. Anything else you guys want to bring up while we're here? I'm still working on the next installment of Living on Borrowed Crime. I'm also working on having a special event in the near future with a special guest to talk about a special thing. I'm not going to give it away or, write checks I can't cash because I still have to make the arrangements. But I came across a video a couple of weeks ago, a video very pertinent to one of my YouTube friends' career, I should say. And I thought I would put this out there and say, hey, talk about this sometime and take a look because you'd have more information on this than I do. And he's like, sure. I'm just like really busy with my career. I'm like, I can understand. I'll check in with you later. And so I'm trying to arrange that. And as soon as I have that set up, I will let you guys know and put it all over the place. It should be a fun time with a professional insight into some very, let's say, activist leanings in the entertainment industry. I'll only say that. Shadow Claw, Scribe Light. There was a woman trying to smuggle a bunch of gas in her lady's purse from Canada to U.S. Okay. If you say so. Oh, that was sometime. Oh, that's a real story. Okay. I thought that was like some kind of like punchline to a joke I didn't get. I guess that's also possible. Let's see. Wait a sec. Click on the bottom right. Scribe Light. I need the rest of that sentence. The story on the bottom right. Women sentenced to 11 years in prison after arguing she was legally allowed to kill a man because he sexually trafficked her. I guess that's the... What, you want me to read this one? Okay. Sure, why not? A Milwaukee woman who argued she was immune from prosecution because the man she fatally shot was sexually trafficking her was sentenced Monday to 11 years in prison, according to Kenosha County Court documents. Crystal Kaiser, who earlier this year pleaded guilty to reckless homicide in the case, will also serve 5 years parole, Kenosha County District Attorney Michael Gravely told CNN in an email Monday. Quote, the 11 years is minus 570 days because she has served those awaiting trial. Kaiser shot Randall Volar, 34, at his Kenosha, Wisconsin home in 2008 when she was 17 years old. Kaiser shot Volar in the head, burned his house down, and stole his BMW. She initially was charged with multiple counts, including first-degree intentional homicide, arson, car theft, and being a felon in possession of a firearm. And she only got 11 years? Why? Kaiser, who is black, argued she was trafficked by Volar, who was white. What has that got to do with anything, CNN? beginning when she was 16. All right. Do you have any evidence of this? Wisconsin Supreme Court ruled in 2022 a state law absolving trafficking victims of criminal liability for offenses committed as a direct result of being trafficked extends to first-degree intentional homicide. Okay, so she attempted to use a get-out-of-jail-free card? Was there proof that this was happening? The court ruled Kaiser's legal team should have the opportunity to present evidence at trial that the crimes she was charged with were, quote, a direct result of the violence she experienced. The ruling allowed Kaiser to argue she was justified in the killing, but it also said Kaiser must first provide evidence, yes, for a trial judge her decision to kill Volar was connected to being trafficked before she could invoke immunity. Yeah, you actually have to prove that you were trafficked. Kaiser maintains Volar's death was the result of self-defense. But in May this year, she pleaded guilty to a reduced count of reckless homicide. So you had no proof. Why did you reduce the count to reckless? What? Wait a second. So wait, the threshold for her claiming immunity is that she provide proof that she was a victim of trafficking. She has no proof that she's a victim of trafficking. So basically, she shot a guy in the head, burned down his house, stole his car, and she gets 11 years for that. Because what? You thought you couldn't convict her at trial? In the absence of any evidence that would give her immunity. So okay. Thanks for making me read this. Jeez. Good gravy. Okay. Anyway. 11 years for shooting a guy in the head and stealing his car, burning his house down. Okay. Boy, oh boy. Boy, oh boy. All right. Anyway. There you go. Not just 4 stories, 5 stories. I've almost got a skyscraper. With that, everybody, I'm going to call it here because my voice is going a little sideways as well. And my teeth hurt. It actually hurts to talk because if I bring my teeth together, ow, 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 owie, owie. Oh, the pains of being a teenager with braces, except I'm a 45-year-old man. They did give me the choice of what little rubber bands, what color rubber bands I wanted on my brackets. I chose royal blue. You can barely tell that they're there. They're so tiny, but I royal because that's my favorite color. That's a factoid if you didn't know already. Anyway, everybody, I'll call it here as I said. By the way, did you know I have a Discord server? Did you know that unlike previous streams, I actually prepared a Discord link before the show began? Oh my God. Link is in the chat now if you'd like to join the Discord server or you know someone who would. Let's put it that way. Just click on that link. You'll find yourself on the landing channel called Say Hello. And in addition to saying hello, you just have to say the secret word. The secret word will tell me that you are not a bot. Actually watch the stream, or at least scan to the end of the stream, or someone told you, I suppose. And you've earned the right, the privilege, the entitlement of joining the Discord server. And today's secret word is, how about Harley-Davidson? Sure. There you go. Just say hello, Harley-Davidson, and I'll know that you watched the show. Beyond that, you can find me here every Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern for TED Excellence, where I take a look at off-brand TED Talks. Be sure to check out the most recent episode where we took a look at David Hogg's personal TEDx talk. Boy, oh boy. Was it something? I can honestly say it was something and not be accused of false advertising. Beyond that, you'll have to find out for yourself. Also, I am, at least frequently, on Midnight's Edge After Dark on Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern to talk about movies and comic books and pop culture and all types of other things as they occur in our world. And as always, of course, you can find me here just as you have now, Sundays at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern for the Sunday stream, where I'll talk about stuff. It's turning into a digest news show. Let me know what you guys think about that so far. I've done it a couple of weeks in a row now. Do you like this format? Would you like to see something else? I'm a little open more with the Sunday stream since it's such a sort of, generic title. Yay, ambiguity. Otherwise, everybody, I want to thank you all for joining me. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things, even though everyone here is so well behaved. You have very, very little to do. Everybody who donated either to myself or, of course, to the fundraiser, I forgot to mention, apologies, guys. At the top of the chat, there is a link up there for a fundraiser to the family of Fallon Fridley. Now, who is Fallon Fridley? Fallon Fridley is a beautiful little girl who was murdered by people that whose care she was entrusted to. The story is very well covered by my true crime content friends, The Misery Machine, and now Mr. Black Pasta via the Law and Crime Network. It's a tough story to watch and hear about, but anyway, the family of Fallon is as well having a new, unfortunately, urgent need for help. There's a link up there to a GoFundMe to help them out with some family medical issues. I'll leave the details up there rather than talk about them here because it's a little rough. So please take a look at that if you have the opportunity. If you can donate, please do so. But even if you can't, if you can share that on a social media, that'd be very much appreciated. So in addition to anybody who donates there and as well to myself, thank you guys so much for your generosity. Very much appreciated. Beyond that, everybody, hope you have a good rest of your Sunday. Hope you have a good week ahead of you. I hope you're all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.